All right, so we are now in Arc, and Arc does this really cool thing of getting you started here by trying to get you to open your first tab. But before we get going with that, I want to kind of talk about some of the big differences between Arc and some of the other browsers you've used. Now, I'm sure having a sidebar like this might not be that different from something like, say, Microsoft Edge at one point in time and a couple of other browsers. But the way that Arc chooses to kind of implement this sidebar and the way that it's ultimately kind of built out and everything is the big difference. All right, so let's go ahead and get kind of familiar with what we're working with in Arc. So here, of course, in this larger space, this is where you're going to render your web content. So anything you type in the URL bar is going to appear here. Okay, that's where you're going to view the web. Here in this sidebar, that's where you're going to ultimately get everything set up that is going to allow you to work in a more streamlined and efficient manner with Arc. And there are a couple of choices that the developers at the browser company who made Arc made that ultimately make this sidebar super powerful. But let's go ahead and get used to what we're working with here in the sidebar. Okay, so first and foremost, in the top row here, we've got our reload or stop, our forward back buttons if you're navigating between multiple web pages, and then here, this is going to ultimately hide the sidebar, and you'll notice too that you get nifty shortcuts when you hover on each of these. So for example, if I want to hide the sidebar, it's as easy as Command S, and right now it's not hiding. And that's because I haven't opened any tabs. I haven't actually gotten any web content here. I haven't gotten started. So Arc wants me to go through this tutorial to actually hide the sidebar. And it gives you another shortcut here just to open your first tab. All right, so up here, hide the sidebar, back, forward, refresh. Here is your URL navigation window. So here, the search bar allows you to either search for something or enter a URL for a website you'd like to go to. Now, Arc took some liberties here, and it placed these two tiles here. And I'm going to actually remove them because we're going to talk about these here in a second. But you'll notice they're called favorites. Okay, and when I do, I get this drag to add favorites. Favorites keep your most used sites and apps close. We'll talk about favorites soon enough. Then you'll notice below the favorites area, I have this little icon of Saturn, and it says personal, and then these three ellipses. And if I click on this, it gives me these options for spaces. This whole area of the sidebar right now is what we call a space. And we're going to talk about spaces here in just a second. Okay? Then under that, I get this very defined line, and I see this down arrow and clear. And this ultimately is going to clear any tabs below this line. So if I want to clear Google, Wikipedia, and YouTube, I just click clear. And now you'll notice I'm working with this clean space in the sidebar. So what we're going to talk about in future lectures here is how the sidebar is actually divided up. Because the sidebar forces you ultimately to kind of choose how important are the tabs or windows that you currently have open in Arc. But before we get there, let's go ahead and start with what Arc is prompting me to do, and that is opening my first tab. So I'm going to press Command T, and that opens up the search bar, and you'll also notice it starts this new tab. So let's just say for now, I'm going to go to gmail.com. Okay, so I've opened a new tab. The tab is visible here in Arc, and of course I see the content of that tab here. And now I'm going to go ahead and press the Command S to hide the sidebar, and now you'll notice that I get this beautiful full screen display of that tab. Now at any point in time, if I want to, I can come and hover here, and I can see my information for Arc if I hover on the top. If I go over here to the left, the sidebar will pop back out. So it does this kind of like peekaboo or drawer style presentation, but also if I want it to be more permanent, I can just press Command S again, and boom, here I have my sidebar again. All right, so that's just the little kind of like walkthrough of the tab and organization here. We're going to also talk a little bit more about these two here, these two icons. So you'll notice this little, it looks almost like kind of a, I guess a box. This is a library. This is the library tab, and then down here, this plus will help us add what's called a new space. All right, so we're getting to know the sidebar. Let's go ahead. We're going to click on library. And that's going to give us a bunch of different options here beyond the sidebar. Okay. You may also notice that there are two icons down here at the bottom of the sidebar. Okay, there is ultimately what looks kind of like a little filing cabinet or filing box with things kind of spilling out of it, and then a plus. We're going to talk about these two icons in later lectures. And in fact, actually, we're going to talk about this guy here in the next lecture. So let's go ahead and I'll see you there.